Hey there, we're live today for our Wise Woman interview series with Bonnie Miller, who is a part of Lynk Financial. And how in the world did I meet her? Well, I left the house with real shoes, leaving my comfy little office here, enjoying the Chamber of Commerce, and took it one step further into our Huron Valley Referral Network meeting every Thursday morning at 7. And what's so sacred about this space would be that we have one business representation of each category, and Bonnie is the person. And what was so great when we did our one-on-one, and what I love most, is that she is not a person that's going to put you in something that doesn't benefit you now and later. Some people look at the now. Oh, the rate, the this, the that, and things that I don't even understand yet now because we've been a part of this meeting. She comes and shares her experience with clients and what they think is good. And then she will educate them from her years of experience as to why that may or may not be necessarily the best interest for the next 10, 20, or so on amount of years. And that's very significant in business because some people are looking at the moment right now, and she's looking at now and projecting the future because of her experience. And it comes with heart, it comes with choices that she can acknowledge that sometimes it's not necessarily in her greatest benefit, yet the client before her is the greatest benefit and choices for them and their future. So getting to know her and knowing that she's our person has been such a blessing. We've sitting here talking like before we hit record. I'm like, oh no, we haven't hit record yet. We could go on and on and on because there's such a love of what she does. She's not here um, how many years later by accident. It's complete purpose. And so I'm so grateful that she is our financial person on Thursday mornings, part of our Chamber of Commerce, and you get to learn from her today. So thank you for your precious time. Share with us
Thank
more
you.
about you.
Oh, sure. So I am not a Michigander. I'm originally from Pennsylvania. I came to Michigan in 96 with a job transfer. But I grew up in Pennsylvania. And just a brief kind of background for me is my parents divorced when I was 6. I went to live with my mom and I moved a lot. I went to 13 different schools. So I had to adapt and overcome differences because I lived in the country. My first official kind of house that I remember was on a mountain, and we didn't have a whole lot of neighbors. And I was a country kid. I hung out in the woods and with the animals and that kind of stuff. And then when the divorce happened, we moved. I went to a city school. And I was a country kid in a city school, so that was an interesting experience. And then um, because we moved a lot. Then we moved back to the country, and I was the city kid in the country school. So I was like, okay. So it was a lot of learning to adapt at a young age, learning to change and adapt and just adapting to the environment. So I think that gave me a lot of skills in being able to understand people and understand differences and understand what's important to them. So fast forward, and one of the places that we lived was not the best of places. It was in a town that wasn't all that safe. And there was a business underneath, and we had like an apartment upstairs. And um, this was a pivotal time for me because this was a time that I thought about because my bedroom was basically a foyer. I didn't have a bedroom, so I had a foyer to sleep in. And back in the 80s, setting out my age there, the thing that was popular was these roll-out chairs that were basically foam and it rolled out into like a bed. but it was like basically foam and cloth, and that was my bed. So I had a chair that rolled out, and that became my bed. And so I remember one day laying in the foyer in my little on my little bed and thinking, I'm never going to live like this. I'm never going to experience this again. And so that was a pivotal time because it kind of put that fire in me. And it wasn't anything that was, um, my mother did the best that she could with what the means that she had at the time. And she had some medical things and stuff like that. And she just did the best. It was still, I always had clothes on my back. I always had food in my belly, that kind of stuff. But there were times that she had difficulties, and this was one of them. And so, but this was a pivotal time and a pivotal thing for me that kind of lit that fire of whatever I have to do. And so, what I was able to glean from my mother was she was my risk taker. She was the person that you say can't, and she'll find a way and make it can. And whereas my dad was the responsible, I'm going to be responsible, I'm going to be accountable. My word is my bond, and my handshake is my contract. And so I was able to really get some good fundamental things as a young child, but also realize I wanted more. I wanted more out of life. I didn't want to constantly feel like I was less than. Because when you're going to different schools and you're not fitting in and you don't have the money to take, to for the special things that the kids want, and constantly wanting, you didn't want to go back to mom and say, hey, I need more money. I need something for this, I need something for that. You start thinking, hey, how can I make a difference? What can I do? What can I make easier? So it was kind of like that fire that's lit back, and then I was like 14 years old at the time or so. So I started working, and I worked at a farmer's market, and uh, and I worked a lot of hours on the weekends. I'd work. This was before the child labor law things and stuff like that, where we would go in, and I'd go in after school, and I'd be there to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and then turn around and come back at 8 o'clock the next day, and then work till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and so forth through my weekend. But I was able to make enough money when I was 15 and a half to buy my car. So that gave me freedom. And that was another pivotal thing that I was like, oh, by working hard, I gave myself freedom. I was able to do and stuff. And so, and then in high school, I worked, that was important to me then. So I worked 3 jobs in high school. And I worked for a telemarketing research firm. I worked as a waitress at a fine dining restaurant, and I also cleaned offices. So, and in my eyes, that was what was important. Make the money, right? You realize though, and so my schooling wasn't that great, but um, I realized I needed an education. And so I went to community college. And in high school, I barely graduated because, like I said, all I was interested in is work, 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 make money, make money, make money. Yeah, because I don't want to, I need to help my mom. I need to buy my own clothes. I need to buy my own food, that kind of stuff. I felt that responsibility. So I went and um, when I went to college, I had to go to community college. But I thought, you know what, I'll do business management because I had no clue what I wanted to do. Absolutely was kind of floating out there like I have no clue. So I went for business management, and I um, ended up being the president of the Honor Society, Phi Theta Kappa, Alpha Kappa Zeta chapter, there, which was fun. And while I was there, I ended up getting a job as a secretary, which I'm the world's worst secretary, hands down, world's worst secretary. I could type, but yeah, take phone calls, know who's on the call, transfer the call, no. So, but for some reason they loved me. and I could talk to the people and get to know them a little bit, and which would then pass them off, and it ended up being a mortgage company, pass them off from the reception over to the loan officer, and they'd get their loans. So they had said to me, "Hey, we know you're going to college, but if you go part-time to college, we'll pay for it and full-time with us." So I thought, well, that's a good idea. So once I graduated with my associate's degree and was transferring to my main college, the Ursinus College, which is a small college in Pennsylvania, um, they had they'd take me on full time, and I became a loan officer with them. And which was an interesting, cool, really cool and interesting experience. It was allowed me the opportunity to learn so much in my field because they did everything. They did everything from finding the clients to, and this is before computerized, nothing was computerized. And they went to, uh, we would do the sales, do our own underwriting, and then sending up that up for further underwriting. And it was all manually done. There was no computers telling us whether or not to do it. This was before credit scores too, so that was interesting. And then when we would have to type up our loan sets, it was on carbon copies. And if you had a bad typing day, it was not a good day on a bad typing day. And then we'd also have to service the loans. So I'd have to go out and do collections. I'd have to go downtown Philadelphia, and later downtown Detroit, knock on doors and ask for payments. If the mortgage company had to defend themselves in court with a bankruptcy or a foreclosure, because Pennsylvania is a judicial state, I'd have to go represent the mortgage company and go through with the bankruptcy stuff and the foreclosure stuff. And then if it ended up being a foreclosure, we would have to go evict. Um, and so often we would offer cash for keys to give them some moving costs, and I tried to be as compassionate and as loving as I could possibly be, because some of the stories were just heart-wrenching stories. And then there's other individuals that you were like, wow, okay. You were just kind of surprised on how they would take advantage of the system, and it was interesting. But I always felt so much compassion for them, and a lot of times it was interesting. I'd come up and the one gentleman gave me a hug just because of, I was like, let's do this at a time that your neighbors are not really aware, and we'll just try to do this as nicely as possible. And then we'd have to clean out the house, we'd have to list the house, we'd have to repair anything that needed to be repaired, and then I'd have to go to the closings and stuff. So I learned so much. It was so valuable. And they put me in a training program for about 15 months, and then I became an executive branch manager for them. And then I had a $7 million branch. And then I went from there and went back to my old branch because it didn't have a manager for like 6 months. And it was ended up, I found out after taking the, hey, yeah, I'll help you out, that it was chalked up to be closed. And I'm like, oh no. So I spent a lot of time there cleaning up that branch and ended up making it number one.
Mm.
But I did a lot of time there, and worked a lot of time to go there, and just a lot of hours. And then they said, "Hey, you cleaned up that one. Let's go to the oldest branch in the district." So I went to the oldest branch in the district and worked there. And then about 6 months into working there, an opportunity came to come to Michigan and to look at a district and become a district manager. And so there was a challenge there. So I was seeing the office was it was it used to be a district office. So I was seeing people get promoted before me. And this is and I'm like, wow, what's going on here? And so I kind of created the opportunity for myself because I'm like, hey, well, if they're not going to promote me, I'll go somewhere else because I've been cleaning up their branches and stuff. And so I gave my resignation. And in banking and mortgages and stuff like that, if you gave your resignation, they'd walk you out the door right away, even though you gave them 2 weeks. So I had booked a trip to Aruba, thinking, hey, I'm going to go. So I gave my resignation, and the vice president calls me and says, hey, what's going on? And I said, well, cleaned up your branches. I made them number one and that kind of stuff. And I'm not getting promoted, but yet I'm seeing these other promotions happening. And he's like, let me call you back. I'm like, okay. So I get a call from the president of the company. President of the company basically says the same thing. And I said, well, you know, I've been doing this for the last however, and when you're young, you think time's so small. I look back now and go, it wasn't that long that I was a branch manager, executive branch manager, and cleaning up these branches, but time, a month can seem like a year, kind of a thing. So he comes back and the vice president calls me back and he says, will you go to Michigan? We have a district there we want you to look at. I'm like, well, because I was going to leave, I have a trip to Aruba. So he goes, okay, when you come back from the trip to Aruba, will you fly out to Michigan? And I'm like, okay, sure. And at that time, I was like, well, what could they really offer me? So I came out to Michigan and I'm like, and it was October 16th of 96, which I remember because Michigan snowed every day. And I'm like, why am I here? But then it came to spring and it was beautiful and I loved it. So, but I came out and I'm like, okay, I can do this. So I moved out here in October of 96 and took over the district and ran around with the company there and all. I had 9 branches in Lower Michigan. And I was in my early or mid 20s. And during that time period, I was also going through a divorce. That was not fun. But I had married my high school sweetheart, and I was with him for like 8 years, and we were married for six, so 6 months basically. So that lasted really quick, but it kind of worked out because I'm like, hey, new start. And I went to a new state, even though you're going through that challenge, and I'm young and didn't know anybody here, going by myself. But I'm like, hey, I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that opportunity as an opportunity that I don't want to pass up. And I'm so glad I did. Um, Now, the job itself had its challenges because it had a little bit of an ego. And so they tried to create a system that crashed and caused their investors to kind of go, oh, so they had a company come in and reassess the company. And they had us give them recommendations. We gave them recommendations on what branches would we possibly close. And that was difficult. That was difficult when you're talking about people's lives. And I remember the day that I had to run around to 9 offices and tell them what was going on because they decided to sell the company. And they sold all the employees too, and with the company. And I remember being flown out to Chicago, and they wanted me to head up their foreclosure division. And because there was a 25-year veteran district manager here, so they didn't have a district management position, but they wanted me to go. And because even though you may not like a portion of your job, you can be very good at it too. And I guess I was good at the foreclosures because you have compassion for people and so, but I couldn't see myself going with this company, even though they were offering a lot. They were offering, I mean, I'm in my 20s, and they're offering a six-figure income. They're offering to buy my house because I had bought a house early on when I was about 20, 21 because I knew in the mortgage industry, that's what you're supposed to do. So I bought a house when I was young. So I had a house in Pennsylvania. I had a house here in Michigan, and they're like, hey, we'll buy those from you and we'll give you the down payment for the new house in Chicago. And so it was a lot. It was like, wow, in my 20s, I'm getting all this stuff. But I was looking at the ethics of the company, and then I'd be the person having to take people's homes. And I'm like, can I get up and look in the mirror and can I say I'm a good person if I know that the ethics of the company was not in line with what I felt? And so I said no. And I walked away from that opportunity. I'm so glad I did because it was not really an opportunity that was um, was something that I was meant to be, meant to do. And later that company did get in trouble with ethics and that kind of stuff. So I'm so glad I dodged that. But I took my severance and I opened my company in 98. And that was an eye opener to be working for yourself because I was so used to the company that I was working for. Every 6 months, we would compete for basically a paid vacation. They sent me to Italy, all expenses paid with 400 employees, and we go on these elaborate trips, and they give you money for gowns, and they really treated us well. And I was Italy, I was in Ireland, I was in Hawaii, I was in Alaska. They took me around the world every 6 months. And I was so used to that it was great. It was a great experience for a young person to be able to travel and learn things and grow. And now I'm self-employed and every dollar counts. But I looked at myself and I'm like, you know what? Money can't be the indicator here. And so when you come from not having and you're like, hey, I have to work 3 jobs and I have to do this and it has to be money, money, money. But I got to the point that money's not what matters. Money is not the end all be all. It is how do you make a difference in people's lives? How do you be remembered for the way you made them feel? And what you were able to accomplish. And I remembered back that day when I was 14 years old saying, I'm never going to live like this, but I have to do it in a way that helps others. And I also remember about that time I thought of a house that I wanted. When you live in apartments after apartment and some really crappy apartments, you think about the place. Where am I going to live? When I grow up, where am I going to go? And I thought about this house, and it was a Victorian home with a wraparound porch. I had it down. I had all the details. Um, so, um, and that came later on. I was able to eventually build that house, which was really a cool thing. But to do, and I'll get to that part of this little story. But so starting out, I didn't have the accolades. You know, you go forward and you accomplish, and somebody says, "Atta girl," or here's an award, or here's your name, or here's your title. And I am the person taking out the trash at night, cleaning up the desk. I am the person that's doing the sales calls. I'm the person. And I don't have that anymore. And that was very much wow, this is different. Until I realized that my clients and the fact that my clients are happy and they're in a home and I gave them a safe place and I gave them an opportunity to give their children a home and a Christmas and a Easter and an experience, then that was my like, wow, okay. I don't need the accolades. I don't need because I get that from my clients. I get to see them accomplish things. And that's a cool thing to be able to go back and say, I was part of that and they let me in their life. And I feel so blessed when somebody allows me in their life on a major thing like this, because you are given so much understanding where they're at in their life right now and what they want to accomplish. And you're a little bit part of that dream. And if you can help them to make that happen, that is and in a safe way that sets them up for future opportunity, that is I will take that over any title, any award that somebody could ever be given, because that's an award that you can say, hey, and I have a client that this was really cool. I have to share this story real quick. I had a client, he was down on his luck. He had some challenges in his life. He got in a scrape with the law, and he now came out of that, and he had a girlfriend that he wanted to make his wife, and she was expecting, and he wanted to give her a home. And he had some challenges, and it took us a little while. It took us about maybe 3 or 4 months. It wasn't that long, but he did everything I told him to do. And he got the house. And um, he would send me little snippets of photos whenever he did something to major improvement to the house because it was an older house, older farmhouse. He'd send me little photos saying, "Hey, look what I did to the bathroom," or "Look what I did to this," or and he was excited. And his girlfriend and him got married, and they got married at the house and stuff like that. And so fast forward, and like I said, a few years go by, and I'm getting these little snippets. And now we're doing a refinance because rates went great and it made sense for them. And so I'm at the house and now the little baby's about 5 years old and we're doing the closing. And she says to her son, "Hey, this is Miss Bonnie, and Miss Bonnie helped us get this house. And you see, she's right there." And I thought she meant because I was sitting right there. And she pointed to a photo. Here, I didn't even notice it. There was a photo on their wall in their dining room of the day of closing that I was in. And I'm like, I've been sitting on their wall for 5 years, you know, and that was so important that they made it in their home of that day. And that was like, oh, that was a really cool thing to that it was such important. I was part of that. I was, and so, um, yeah, so that was a cool thing to realize, oh, they made me part of their home. That's so cool. And so, yeah, I really, that was a nice experience to experience. So you find that your accolades that and those things they kind of fell away because it's my clients that really define who I am in a sense of how I was able to be a part of that and how they allowed me. And I take that I take that with huge honor, huge honor. So I had that challenge to overcome. And then you also have the initial thing that I had was, okay, well, I was really good at being accountable to other people. But how about being accountable to myself? Could I do the same? So I came up initially coming from corporate ideas and how, okay, well, this is how it works, of logging my hours. Because I'm like, well, I'm now going to work from home and I'm working for myself. Am I going to just go sit and watch TV and read a book or go for a walk and not do what I need to do? So I initially started logging my hours. Well, I quickly found out I'm a workaholic and I didn't have to log my hours because I did a lot of hours for myself. And so I didn't have to, but that was an important thing to show myself. I could be accountable to myself because I think that's one thing that a lot of people do is they don't value themselves enough. And so they think, I'm going to work hard, 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 and you work hard for all these other people. But then when it comes to you, a lot of times people don't feel that they're worth to work that hard for.
Mm.
And you have to kind of go through that process. And thankfully, I was able to see that no, I was able to filter that through off of corporate America and make it for myself too. And that, yeah, no, I'm putting in the time. And it's not so much later I realized it's not about how much time, it's about the quality of the time. That took me a while. It also took me a while to figure out that not every client's my client. And that's a hard one. That is a hard one to learn. And I'm okay. And there's enough people out there. And some people they might have for whatever their past, they might, hey, I want a guy that can help me with my mortgage because I just feel comfortable because of whatever experience that they had in their life. Or I need somebody young, or I need somebody older, or I need somebody this and that, or I need a big box company. Um, Coming to the understanding that it's okay because the right fit will come and there's plenty enough clients out there and there's and that was a big thing is to understand that it's okay to be not everybody being a client, not every and know when to let go. And that's a hard thing too, and that it may not be anything that you do. You could serve up everything in the biggest platter of the world of services that you could provide, and it just not be what that person needs at that time in their life, and it's okay. And that was a tough one to learn, but and it took me quite a long time to learn it. But it then allowed me the understanding and the freedom that I didn't bog myself down and I could keep myself up and I could keep myself going because I wasn't tied to that particular. I could serve so many people out there because I wasn't tied to that particular client and what happened on that particular thing or why that particular client may not have gone through with what I was doing. Um, so yeah, that was important to understand early on. And then the different things with just having a team. That was another one because I thought I had to do it all because I have a little bit of a control thing going on. I think some women like me, I got to control, make sure it happens because I'm like in my mindset, I'm like, it's not going to happen unless I do it. And so I got to do it all. And no, you don't. Having a team of people, having an accountant, having an attorney, having people that are experts in those fields, and then surrounding yourself with those right people that fit for what you need and allow them to do the things that take time away from what you love to do, is important. And I'm so thankful, and that's one of the things that the business group that we're part of brought to me that I didn't know I needed is having a team, having those people and getting to know them, make them accountable to you too, and getting to know their personalities and stuff and what works for you, and then putting that team in place and relying on them to back you up when you need that accounting work or you need that legal document or you need that insurance, whatever the case may be. They're the experts. I don't need to be experts in that. Um, and to let that piece go so that I can be the expert on what I'm the expert on. Um, and that saved me lots of time, lots of headache, lots of heartache because I didn't have to, figure it out because I went to school for a dual major in accounting and finance. So I did my own tax returns for a long time until I had multiple homes and multiple businesses. And then I'm like, I need somebody else that's going to probably help me better than I'm doing. I'm doing a disjustice to myself by not delegating out and allowing somebody else in. And that's a huge thing for anyone that likes control to give up. But I'm so glad I did, because I'm not spending weeks at a time trying to learn tax laws that I'm not an expert in.
Mhm.
Um, and then later, even though I knew what my why was, I knew what my why. I think everybody knows why they get in and do the things that they do, but they don't define it.
Mhm.
And um, I realized much later in my career that I always understood that the why for me, if I look back, um, I moved a lot. I had a lot of crappy apartments that we lived in, and home was important to me. And I got guided to get into the mortgage industry by accident. And or divine intervention, I think was more so in my opinion. And home was important to me. And it was important so much so that it made it important for the people that I worked with. That was important to give them a safe environment, give them something that they can create for future. Um, or if they want it generational, it could be generational. It could be and which is interesting now that I've been doing this for 36 years. I'm seeing grandkids and I'm doing their first time homes, which I'm like, oh gosh, I'm old. But it's interesting to see and so I am seeing generations of people, and that's a cool environment to see. But I didn't I came to that why later. Um, and but I always knew it that home was important to me because I moved so much and because so it was ideal industry for me to be in is to help people with homes, help people get the financing. And then that aspect of it is wanting to feel like you had what you needed. you had the money that you needed to take care of. So the financing and the home, it was just it was like the ultimate perfect blend for me. To be able to be my why is that I want to help people and empower them. Um, and my thing that I always say is I want whoever I touch their lives or they touch my life. I want them to walk away and say, I'm so thankful that I've known her or that she's helped me, that I made that positive difference in their life, that whether it is giving them just a knowledge, because this industry that I'm in has such a language that can be very um it could be a lot for somebody to take on, especially a first time home buyer. It could be a lot going in. And to be able to break it down and say, hey, this is what you really need to be concerned about. And did you think about the window coverings that you might need to buy after you bought the house? And how about that mower that you might need to go out and get? Have you put money aside for that? Those type of things. And I really enjoy that because a lot of times they look at me like, oh, I didn't think about that. And it's like, yeah, you might want to have a window covering on your bathroom. Definitely want to do that, and stuff like that. So yeah, that was a huge understanding as my why. And like I said, I think we all know when we've gotten into an industry that really speaks to us, that why comes. We just don't define it. And I think once you define it, then you can actually be better at it
Mm,
because you've now put it into focus as to what's important to you. And if you haven't found your why, you'll find it. It's there. It'll present itself. And then interestingly enough, the opportunities come when you've put it out there. You've put it
mm,
out there and you've stated it, and you're like, hey, this is why I want to do this, or this is why I want to be this. And then believing you can do it. And that's one of the things that I always nobody's, I mean, I've had situations where people said, no, you can't. And I got the thing from my mom saying, yeah, you can. We just have to think about it might not be right now. But I'm a patient person and I'll figure it out. And so I have clients that um, the longest client I worked with was to get them where they needed to be. Unfortunately, they were an individual that something always happened in their life. So it took 4 years, but we finally got them where the clouds cleared. Everything was sunny and shiny, and we finally got them their loan. And they were in Kalamazoo, and I drove 4 hours to go to the closing because I've known this person four must be the number. I knew them for at least 4 years working with them through their challenges. And I'm like, I'm coming to the closing. I'm going to be here. And it was great to see that actually happen finally for them. And seeing that transformation into their confidence now. Now
mm,
it was interesting that a lot of times home gives people confidence. And they later started their own business. It was cool. It kind
mm.
of snowballed
Ripple
into some
effect.
things that were really cool. And it's believing you can do it and you will be able to do it, and believing that you have the ability to learn and adapt. And that's one of the things that I've had to do because, yeah, anybody that knows anybody in the mortgage industry that's been there long enough, 2008 is a sore subject. That was a challenge. That was a huge challenge. And prior to that, I had multiple houses. I had built my house in 2004, the house that I mentioned in when I was 15 that I dreamed about. I built that in 2004. And then 2008 hits and you're going, whew, okay, that's a challenge. When you start seeing company after company after company close. And um, you start doubting yourself when you go through challenge. I even took an interview at that time. I got so concerned because there was a time when I had $5 in my bank account
Mm,
and I had to make the choice, do I buy gas or do I buy milk? What do
mm.
I do? Thankfully, I had a friend that knew nothing of what I was going through. And she says, something just told me to give you $100 and just give it back to me later. And you know what? That got me through the week. to get to my next closing, to get to and everything. And it was like, thank you, God. Thank you for, thank you for knowing what I needed. So going through this challenge and seeing all those companies and stuff, I got nervous and I started doubting me. And I went to interview for a company. For a position with a company because I'm like, okay, I'll close down my company, I'll go work for somebody else. And as I was sitting there in an interview, I said everything in the interview that I would not hire somebody for, like distance, and I have a child, I can't do overtime. And I was the world's worst interviewee because I didn't want the job. What I wanted to do was believe in me again. And I was starting to doubt myself because when you have challenges that you have so many individuals jumping ship, and and of course in 2009, right in the middle of all of this, you have a bank regulator show up and they want to audit you. And now, not only are we going through a crash, now I'm getting audited. Oh, and then on top of that, my son's father and I split up. So I have all this, my life's just crashing. Um, and I'm like, okay. So the auditor said, yeah, we had 7,700 mortgage brokers. We're down to less than 700 in that year. And I'm like, oh, please don't make me one less. And so I worked and I worked hard and I was proud of the fact that because I said to myself, my why was helping people. I got out of the whole, you have to focus on the money, you have to focus on the money. And I had the auditor looking at me and saying, you're not charging your clients enough. And I'm like, okay, but that's what I felt worth. I felt that that's what I needed. And they're like, I'm surprised you're still in business. And I'm like, what do you mean? Because I'm charging what I think is feasible. And they're like, you're not charging enough. And I'm like, okay. And I'm surprised that an auditor's telling me this. It was interesting. And and so, but I said to myself during that challenge, and I'm like, but if I focus on money, I can't be in this industry. Because when you start focus on that, in my opinion, that's greed. And you're focusing on the wrong thing. And so even though, yeah, I'm struggling, I can't make the once I do that, I need to check out of this business. Nothing in my career set me on this focus to focus on that. And so I'm like, well, thank you, auditor, but I'm okay. I'm good. And my business group, they sent referrals to me. My clients sent referrals to me. They kept me in business and they knew I was struggling. The business group I was in came in and paid for my membership dues that year. Um, you will be provided for when you don't take the focus on the greed aspect of it and you take the focus on the people. The people will surround you, they will lift you up. And if you're meant to do what you're meant to do, they will find a way to help you to continue to do that. And I truly, truly believe that people surrounded me when I was down and lifted me up and helped me through those challenges. And I just had to have faith in me to listen, faith in me to take the help when I knew I needed it, because you can get very prideful
Mhm.
and not tell anybody. And hey, yeah, I'm struggling, but
Mhm.
I'll figure it out. Nobody needs to help me. You can get very prideful, and but you need to ask for help when you need help and you need to go through those challenges. Take the help. Um, and I was so blessed to have a group, the referral group that we had together that really surrounded me and knew I needed help and got me my referrals and stuff. I didn't have to change my fee structure. I felt, you know, and it just compounded. Client after client would come to me. And so um, it was a cool thing to experience after the fact and look back when you're going through it. Yeah, you're going through it. Um, but I eventually went and unfortunately during the downturn of the industry, sold my house that I dreamed of, but ended up being the biggest bonus to be able to do that because my son was able to grow up there and everything, but it was much more of a house than I ever needed. It was 3,600 square feet on 3.5 acres for just my son and I. And a 14-year-old dog, we didn't need that. We didn't need it. And so letting that go was hard, but it also was realization. What are you focused on? Yeah, you gave your son a place to grow up and be that kid with, but now what do you want to do? And so I'm like, hey, you know what? I really want to give him a house. I want to be able to be in an opportunity
Mm.
that I can someday give him a house. And so I bought a farmhouse and that's a 2 unit. And my goal, I live upstairs, he lives downstairs, um, and he's 25, going to be 26 this year. And I bought a couple acres, not too far, and my husband and I will build our retirement home at some point in time. And then I'll be able to hand the keys over to my son and give him this
Mm.
house. And to go from $5 in the bank account to be able to do that, if I didn't believe I could, if I didn't have good people surrounding me and understanding, and I put it out there to go, hey, I'm not changing who I am. I'm not going to do it. Um, it does come back. And I'm proof that it does come back because I have a home now that I can give to my son and help him establish his life. Um, I did meet a man in 2019 after I raised my son. I'm like, hey, okay, it's time for me. And I got talked into to going out there and doing that. And I'm like, oh, I don't know that I want to do that, but yeah, that's a funny story, but I did meet him, and we got it'll be 4 years that we'll be
Mm.
married in October. Um, I can share the quick funny story because this is divine intervention, I think, too. Um, so friends of mine said, "Hey, go on a dating site." I'm like, "Okay, no," and they're like, "Well, we'll put it up there." I'm like, "Okay, well, no, you're not gonna put words in my mouth. I'll come up with it." So I came up with a little story, and I start describing myself. But I feel like I'm selling a dog, so I'm like, I like long walks. And, I'm going on that. And then at the end of my little thing, I said, and I'm potty trained. So apparently people like that. And they were joking around that she has a sense of humor, which, yes, through all of this, you have to, that's a huge thing, sense of humor. And well, I was on this for about a couple weeks. I'm like, this is not my thing. I don't want to do this. This is weird. No. So, but it was a weekend afternoon, I was bored and I'm looking through and I see this picture of this gentleman and he's very, very religious. He's Catholic. And at this point, I'm spiritual. And so I swipe left. My phone thinks I swiped right and says, you match. And I'm like, oh, no, no, no. So I'm trying to undo it on my phone. The phone comes back and says, don't be mean. You matched. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, well, the powers that be know better than me. So, okay, I will do. And up to this point, it was you write a paragraph supposed to say something, open up. And I'd spend an hour and then I'd get a hey. And I'm like, back for these other dates. And I'm like, this is not my thing. I spent an hour on just this little paragraph and they come back with hey or yo. And well, my husband, he came back with like a page long of everything about him. And I'm like, well, that's different. And so I'm like, after a few weeks, we kind of like, I'd do that and he'd come back with a page of stuff. And so, so finally we decided to meet. So now I'm like kind of a little freaking out. I'm giving my son, here's his picture, here's his phone number. I'm giving him everything. And, and I'm like, I'm too busy for this. I'm self-employed. I'm running a company. I don't have time for this, but okay, I'll go on this date. And so my son turns to me the day of the date and he says, okay, so now, and he's a police officer. He says, so he's a police officer. I'm like, yeah. And he says, and you're going to Tim Hortons. And I'm like, uh-huh. He says, and that's a donut shop. And I'm like, yeah, I'm meeting my date, who's a police officer, at a donut shop. So So that's what I did. So I made the time for me. And I went on the date and we talked for hours, ended up going from the donut shop to a dinner. And that was 2019. And then by 2022, we were married. And
Mm.
yeah, but he hates the story of the fact that I said no at first. But I'm like, but you were really, really into your faith, and I didn't think you'd want somebody that wasn't Catholic and stuff. And I'm like, I said, so, but something told me that it was wrong, and I had to connect with you, so we connected, and so yeah, so it worked out. But I'm so glad I took time for myself because I was at that point in my self-employment, even though I was seasoned in it and stuff, and I was coming out of the whole 2008 thing. I was coming out, things were going well for me. And I'm like, do I really want to upset the apple cart for me, for something that I need now? My son's getting older because he's now 19. He doesn't need me so much. And um, my dog was, older. And so um, taking time out and taking it for me was important. And I didn't realize how much that was important. Um, and that's another factor in there is realizing your health and your well-being, even self-employed, because I put a lot of hours, early days in, I put a lot of hours, a lot of time in, and 2 years into my self-employment, I found out that I was pregnant with my son. And I'm like, whoo, 2 years. And my mom was like, oh my gosh, you just started your company. But you adapt and you're willing to change and you're willing. And I've learned that through my career. You would, you have to be flexible, adaptable, be willing to learn new things, be willing to change with those things. And was given the perfect example of this growing up, going to 13 different schools
Mhm.
to adapt. And so my son went on to seminars with me. And at one point in time, when we had licensing requirements, now that he was older, he'd be over my shoulder answering the questions to my test, and they were right. Yeah, because he was around that and around that environment, but you adapt. And he went to so many things. He went to closings with me. He went to things, and people understood. People
Mhm.
understood that, you're running your life, you're doing your thing, and they will adapt with you and help you. And then another time that I had to pivot is through the 2008. It's like, okay, well, $5 in that bank account, I need to do other stuff too. And so I opened up another company, and a notary company. Because I'm like, if it's not enough just for me, then I'll close loans for everybody else too. And I'd go out and do closings for other companies. And I still do that to this day, even though business is really busy and stuff. It's something that I can give and I can go celebrate with other people. Whether it's my loan or not, it doesn't matter. I'm
Mhm.
celebrating with people and able to use my skills to help those people get to a smooth closing. Um, and I had to learn that skill in that time period. Somebody came to me, a friend of mine says, hey, get your notary and go out and do closings for us. And that'll help you through this hard time. And I'm like, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you for that. And so I did. And I took that advice and listen. And it's another key thing is taking people's advice, listening and taking people's advice because that changed. Because once I added that on, that helped me
Mhm.
because I didn't have that $5 in the bank account anymore because I was able to make income in addition to my baby, my mortgage company. I was able to close loans for other people and have that income coming in between. I didn't have to be as focused and stuff on just one area. I could have different streams of income coming in and it was okay. And I was able to adapt it and work it and change and learn things. And still keep up with the ethics of, hey, that's not my client. And
Mhm.
keep them over there. And the title companies knew that. I'd keep that separate. That's not mine. Keep their stuff separate. And but it helped so much and it allowed me to do so much. And so adaptability is key factor for I think any self-employed person because not every year is going to be good.
Mhm.
And you need to be able to pivot and change and whether it be a product or a service of what can you do to help yourself to adapt but do it in a way that you're expanding, not contracting yourself. not contracting your ethics, not contracting your other ways that you can expand in your own arena, um, or even learn a skill that's outside of that arena that just blends well with everything and can and so that has really and do I need to do notary now? No. But because I have enough clients and past clients that they keep me busy, which is wonderful. My business groups keep me busy and stuff. And as you know, being able to come Thursday mornings, I love, even though so it's been 98, I opened up the group. It's been a lot of years on Thursday mornings going at 7 a.m. and I'm not a morning person. But when you see value in the people that you surround yourself with, and the positivity, and that pumps you up for your day. And it's probably the most productive day I have in the course of the week, is because I'm already up and I've been surrounded by other business owners
Mhm.
or people that want to grow and learn and be extra. They want to be extra, and I like extra. And
I love.
so I love that environment because it really um, kickstarts my day, kickstarts my company and what I can do. And it says, hey, I don't have to, I can still do, I can still grow, I can
Mhm.
still learn. Even though I've been doing this for 36 years, I'll learn something every day, something new. Um, and if it's not about a product or something, it's about myself
Mhm.
and how I can communicate better, how I can just show up, how
Mhm.
I can show up. So that has been a phenomenal learning experience. Is that sometimes um, is showing up is just all it takes,
Mhm.
and then the rest will come. The rest will come. You may think, and I see so many rewarding things through the individuals that are other business owners that they're showing up not only for their business but for themselves, and they're growing so much. Um, So there was, I'll share this real quick because I don't know how much time we have left, but I'll share this real quick and then I'll go with this. There was a person that became part of the business group, and I was very much, hey, small businesses, grow small businesses, and help those small businesses. And there was a gentleman that came in, and he had a stutter,
Mhm.
and he was very self-conscious of that. Now, fun fact to me is when I was a kid and going to all these different schools, I was very, very shy.
Mhm.
And so when I'd have to do presentations in front of people, I couldn't talk. I would stutter through the presentation, and
Mhm.
then that would make it even worse because
Mhm.
I was so nervous. It would make the stutter worse. So I really understood what this gentleman was trying, the challenges that he had in this business group, um, of getting even through a 60-second presentation and just promoting his business and watching him grow to getting through the 60-second, because after week we went and did it, and then to the point where he felt comfortable to do a 10-minute presentation, and he got through his 10-minute presentation, did not stutter once. It was
Mhm.
like, not only was it seeing and cheering for him, but I was cheering for me too,
Mhm.
because I remember those challenges. Just even getting up and being confident enough in yourself and your own words to see the success in others. And that's all by surrounding yourself with the right people that are going to lift you up and say, you can do it. And don't listen to the people say that you can't, because they're the ones that are stuck, not you.
Mhm.
You can get up and you can do the things that you want to do. There's times that I'll work on house projects. I love home improvements and I love YouTube and figuring it out and that kind of stuff. And it'll take me, I could call somebody, but I'm frugal. I want to do it myself. I want to learn. And so I will go on and it might take me a whole week in what would take somebody an hour, but I did it and I did it myself. And I learned, and that's what I found through these business groups is you're going in there for yourself, sure, but you don't realize you're growing and you're learning. and you're walking away better because you have a group of people surrounding you saying, you can do it. And that's what this gentleman had. And I was so thankful to see that transformation. And I think that happens with every young individual that comes in and they're overwhelmed because these people have been in business forever and a day. And she's been in business for 36 years and they know it and they know everything and that kind of stuff. And no, we're learning still today. The one that's been 36 years in the industry is still learning something and probably can learn a lot from you, being young and having new ideas and new ways to do things, and certainly technology, because technology is my kryptonite, I think, at times. So, um, yeah, believing that you can grow and adapt and learn and never stop doing that, never ever stop learning and growing, and and don't define yourself so stringently that you end up in a box. Allow yourself to do other things, and if it there are so many times I can look back and say, yeah, you failed at that, you failed at that, you failed at that. But don't stop there because you don't fail unless you stop. So, um, I don't think it's always, even in the worst times in my life, I've learned something from it. I may not have liked it, may not have liked what I learned, I may not have liked, but it helped me in the future. It helped me going through the 2008 stuff. It helped me to understand what risks to take, what risks not to take. What should I do with my business? How do I need to pivot? What do I need to do with, you know, advertising? For a long time, I didn't advertise for a lot. Oh, now I'm doing a commercial. So it's kind of interesting, which was exciting and fun and things. And you look at it and go, "Whew, okay. Yeah, I got to believe myself that I can do this kind of stuff and put myself out there." Because do I like being on camera? Oh, I don't like being on camera, but um, I adapt and learn that people like to see people on camera. People like to see who they are and what they're about. And so I put myself out there with a commercial. So it'll be fun to see it and see that adapt and change me in that prospect of stuff, of me still learning, that I can do that. So, um, and then understanding that, yeah, all the things that I look back and said, yeah, I failed, was my biggest growth. It was, it was, it was like, oh, that was a good teacher. And a lot of people come back and say, well, why did you stay in business? If you had that much struggle, why didn't you just let it go and have a paycheck every week? And it's like, because I believe in me. And
Mhm.
if I can't believe in me in my own business, how could I believe in me with somebody else? If I, yeah, that's comfort, but I've never been content with just comfort. I
Mhm.
want something more to offer. And I love the fact that I can call the plays if I need to pivot or if I need to take a closing here or whatever, I can do that. And and I don't have to be locked into a box. I love being able to spread out and go, okay, this is what we're doing today.
Freedom
Um,
and choice. The freedom
yeah.
and choice. I can't figure out if you're more motivated by freedom and choice or challenges because I feel like you're really you value the freedom and choice and the independence.
Mhm.
Yet there's so many things that you have found that challenge you that most people would step back from and you stepped into.
Yeah.
So,
I think what happens is I love the freedom and choice. I love to be able to pivot. I love to be able to make decisions and be the decision maker. But um, I think until you're tested,
mhm.
you don't know what you're capable
Oh, I
of.
teach it. I teach so many times we get a test.
Mhm.
And then when we choose to allow it to be something for us versus, oh, it happened to me, woe is me, bleh. But when you really say, okay, what is this meant to teach me, that learning part?
Mhm.
And then once you recognize, oh, I I have a choice. You kept getting choices, and that's what I love is you had the choice that this is the path of money and you may have to do things you don't agree with, or you can edit and change and keep your ethics and values. So you went that way. And then again, when the auditor came in and said, wait a second, which is not that's the most obscure situation to be in. It's usually the opposite and critiquing in a bad way versus hey, I see this and you still made your choices. And the most beautiful part of that is the refinement. So it's the test, the lesson, and then there's the refinement. And your refinement was, I'm going to go the road less paved. And that was that. I don't, like I said, it's so equally great because it's the freedom to choose, but so many people don't choose it because it's not paved. It might have some serious potholes.
Oh yeah.
You either avoid the pothole or you go through it and you're like, boop, boop. Oh, ugh, you okay? I always like to tap my car being on a dirt road. Like, I'm so sorry. That was terrible. But, I didn't see it or I couldn't avoid it. If I
Yeah.
can, I will, and so those choices, and then you're like, boop, boop. Okay, keep going. The whole point I hear through all of this is to keep going, believing in yourself again and again and again and again so that you can go and have these stories and the beautiful wins for yourself, but also the wins of someone else's experience and their legacy that lives out. And I have to say, in this interview, when I was first on the screen with you, for whatever reason, technology, it cut off your sign. So it said sweet home. And I was like, oh, I bet you it says home sweet home because I've seen it. Then when I expanded it, I was like, oh, here she's talking about what she does. And like it has such a deep meaning. I literally have like goosebumps.
Aw.
So
Yeah.
I thank you for your words of
Thank
wisdom.
you.
I thank you for the process in which you're willing to share and pivot in those places because this whole interview series is that interview into us so that this speaks to man, a woman, young, old, whatever. I mean, we can say we're old or we can say we're wise. We can say we're young, yet we can say we're inexperienced, and some young are very experienced. Like what you went through in your 20s, some people never choose into because they say no. And they do go work for someone their entire time and they don't take the options, they don't take the choices, and they don't step out of the box and they are miserable. And so my hopes are that this inspires someone right where they are to take one step
I
out of
hope
their
so too.
comfort zone,
Yeah.
to be able to make the phone call to refinance, to make the phone call that starts the ripple effect of a move, that starts the process of schooling or education or parenting or asking, like, and you don't even know this about me. One of my biggest things that I teach, it's an infinity loop, and it's truly, it is the loop in life. It starts with believe. It goes down to ask. It swoops up to allow, and then it comes to receive. And we're
Awesome.
literally in this loop of life. And until we raise the bar of our own beliefs, we won't ask for help. We won't allow someone to step in and give us advice, and we won't receive anything greater, bigger, or better. And it's not always money, it's feedback. Yet there's feedback you can use, as Tamara, one of my beautiful friends and clients, has said for years now, there's feedback you can use and there's feedback you can lose. If we don't
Absolutely.
recognize what we're going to allow, which again, you don't know this about me, environment is everything. We are like the five people we surround ourselves with.
Oh, I am a true believer of that.
I think
It's
that there was a quote someplace, and it was pretty raw, and I don't have it in front of me, but it was like, if you hang around five people and one is an asshole, like you're one of them. You know what I mean? Because, and that's where I was raised too, is guilty by association. If somebody's rude and, you know, improper and all these things, and that's something to be aware of. And so when we choose into the spaces and opportunities and show up with our elevator pitch, our 30-second window or 30 a 60-minute commercial, whatever you want to call it, it tests us to be something more different and better. And to know that you've chosen into that since 1998, that is consistency, that is purposeful, and it's commitment. And so many people don't withstand the times and the experiences because they're not committed. And that I love. When I heard how long you've been in this business, I was like, man, she could write a book because you know what I mean? You've been through the history of the,
Sure.
whoa, this is amazing to, whoa, this is not amazing. And you pursued anyway, because there is the greatest of lessons and the refinement that you chose into. So I am grateful more
Thank
than you
you.
even know. And I think we could talk for hours upon hours, hours. So I thank you for your precious time and sharing your
Sure.
story and your journey. It's so inspiring.
I appreciate you. Thank you.